Oh, come on, are you kidding me?
How's it looking?
Not good. There is so much tubing and piping under there that was blocking the engine. So I removed a bunch of them. Should run like a dream now. Huh. Odd.
I should be enraged, but frankly I'm just trying to figure out what train of thought led you from flat tire to removing parts from the engine.
Still, even I'm a big enough man to admit when it's time to call in a professional. Let me just call AAA and... No service. Can I use your phone?
Good luck. I left mine back at the studio. Funny, huh?
No! Stuck on the side of the road, broken car, can't use our phones, in the rain. I don't really feel like laughing. I feel like crying.
Well, best we can do is stay hopeful. Either the rain will stop or someone will find us. After all, we have nothing to fear but fear itself.
Thanks for sharing that optimism. Of course I'm aware of all that. I know we're not alone. I mean, it's a small... What the smooth was that?
TAP-G, your water bottle, look! Ripples.
Lord have mercy. You don't think...
Don't sing. I can't hear you if you don't sing.
Is it gone?
I'll check.
So, what do you think? The folding was tough to work with, but I think it came together pretty well. Not to toot my own horn or anything.
So, did we die because of the song, or the clock tower straight up murdered us?
It's meant to be open to interpretation. It's subversive. It represents the monster the song has become.
Going hard or going home on the avant-garde, aren't we?
Yeah, pretty much. I should be getting a decent grade from my professor at Full College. Wish me luck!
How does a Jin apply for college courses?
Good question. I answer your question with a question. Want to review It's a Small World?
I suppose we should at some point.
So, let's begin. Once upon a time. The 1964-1965 New York World's Fair. Walt Disney wanted in on the New York World's Fair because it was an opportunity to showcase new rides and shows without necessarily having to worry about marketability. It was essentially a trial run for new rides that Walt wanted to ambitiously play around with. At this point, Walt was euphoric. After the success of several animated and live-action films, dominating television with the Mickey Mouse Club, Davy Crockett and Zorro, and a little project called Disneyland, Walt was on top of the world, in spite of the debilitating back pain and smoker's lung.
In fact, it wasn't until 1961 where Walt Disney finally paid off their debt to the bank, which by 1945 had ballooned to $4.5 million, or nearly $60 million in today's dollars. So Walt, finally able to do the things he wanted to do, jumped at the chance to make attractions for the World's Fair. Ford sponsored Magic Skyway, General Electric sponsored the Carousel of Progress, and the state of Illinois sponsored Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. Then, about 9 months before the fair opened, Pepsi approached Walt and asked for a kids' boat ride in the UNICEF Pavilion. Now, Walt could have said, "No, I'm sorry, my boys are busy as bees trying to make that incredibly problematic lifelike Lincoln animatronics work in between making 4 animatronic families for the Carousel of Progress and animatronic cavemen and dinosaurs for 4, and that's not even including all the stuff we're doing for Disneyland, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to say no." But he didn't. He said yes, and Pepsi said cool, and the Disney Imagineers went,
Thus, the 9-month journey to put together a Disney ride commenced. The designer of the ride was Mary Blair, a concept artist who is known for her simplistic pastel designs. From the simple shapes to the cherubic children, the design of the ride is pure Mary Blair. And if you happen by the Contemporary Resort, stop by the monorail station. There's a column by the station covered on all 4 sides of a mural by Mary Blair, which features the legendary and elusive 5-legged goat.
Oh, and there's something else important we ought to talk about.
That's right! The water pumps!
Huh.
Disney designed and invented a system of water pumps to propel the boats through the canals. Without it, we wouldn't have Pirates of the Caribbean as we know it today. What else is there?
Well, I know the costumes were designed by Alice Davis, possibly the best costume designer in the legacy of the Disney company, and wife of Disney animator Mark Davis. I feel like we're forgetting something.
The song?
Oh, yeah! Great idea, Tower Girl. Let's play some music. Should I play the classic version or the Baha Men cover? You're right. Baha Men version. Hey, man, why you gotta let the dogs out?
Maybe we should talk about the song.
Oh yeah, there's a song in the ride too.
It's a small world after all.
No, anything but that.
First, history lesson. The 1950s was an era of first world elitism. A post-war economic boom of unprecedented proportions brought about a firm establishment of the middle class, and with it, televisions, cars, suburban housing, and Tupperware were purchased by the truckload. Americans lived in a bubble of prosperity, where the biggest things you had to worry about were when commies were coming to nuke us off the planet and keeping up with the Joneses. Not necessarily in that order, of course. Well, if you're a white, anyway.
Then, sometime in the late 50s, something went awry. It's hard to pinpoint why or how, but something happened. We suddenly saw the outside world, and it became threatening. Because of the communist quote-unquote threat, we endured the devastating Bay of Pigs invasion and the subsequent Cuban Missile Crisis, the Vietnam War was heating up, the Civil Rights Movement rose to prominence, and probably the most rattling of all, the 1963 assassination of John F. Kennedy. The world suddenly went from whimsically, morbidly curious to Smoo got real.
Originally, it was planned to have all the children of the world singing their respective national anthems. The problem with this is that it was a pure cacophony of conflicting songs. Eventually, Walt contacted Robert B. Sherman and Richard M. Sherman to write a song that could be adapted into any language. It became a simple ditty with the message of, there's a lot of people and a lot of things that worry us. Can't we all just get along?
Richard Sherman himself admitted that the song was a prayer for peace. As we pointed out, 1964 was a scary, scary time for Americans, and we needed a little assurance represented by the children of the world. Is it corny? Yeah. Is it repetitive? Oh yeah. Is it obnoxiously naive? Well, certainly. But that was the point. In a world that was as freshly scary and terrifying as it was in the early 60s, it was needed badly.
So when the ride opened in the New York World's Fair, it was a huge success. So much so that, along with the Carousel of Progress and Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, It's a Small World was brought over to Disneyland when the fair ended. In 1971, when the Magic Kingdom in Florida opened, Small World was right there since day one.
While the Florida version of the ride has undergone few, if any, major refurbishments, the Disneyland version got Disney characters added into the ride in 2008. The ride has also been getting a holiday overlay every holiday season since 1997, and since 2005, they've had projection shows on the ride's magnificently ornate exterior. And what have we in Florida done with our version of It's a Small World?
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
Although, to be fair, we do see some of Disneyland's Small World merchandise. We don't have the Disney characters on the ride, but the merchandise in the stores portrays that they seem to actually appear. Lies! All lies!
On the ride, you board your bateau beneath a giant rocking smiley face that you could perceive as either charming or creepy, depending upon your point of view. Soon, your boat launches and casually floats away onto the happiest cruise that ever sailed. The first room you enter is Europe, where you see children from across the subcontinent cheerfully in song. And if you've got sharp eyes, find the doll hanging underneath the Eiffel Tower. It's a caricature of Miss Mary Blair.
The following room brings you into Asia, with a large amount of southern and eastern influence. Following that room is the African room, where the only country really represented is Egypt. Funny, considering there are 53 other countries to consider from the Dark Continent, and it seems a bit presumptuous to compensate for those countries by just having a jungle full of animals. I guess it's okay to gloss over countries like Morocco, South Africa, Ethiopia, Botswana, Algeria, Sudan, Kenya, Madagascar, Libya, Sierra Leone, Algeria, Sudan, Kenya, Madagascar, Libya, Sierra Leone, Lesotho, Cote d'Ivoire, Chad, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Mozambique, Nigeria, Namibia, Somalia, Uganda, Mauritania, Gabon, and at least 32 other countries I have yet to mention. Just saying!
After that bit of cultural diversity, we enter the Americas. While Canada and the United States are snubbed, Mexico, Central, and South America are fully on display here. From the Amazon rainforest and its nodding, umbrella-toting jaguars, to the altitude-challenged Lake Titicaca. Oh, real mature.
You said lake.
Right. Next is the Oceania room. This is comprised of Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, Easter Island, and the rest of the Pacific Island nations and territories. Though sadly Lin-Manuel Miranda hasn't written the score here.
Last but not least, the goodbye room. Here, the color is replaced with all white, so all the children of the global nations gather to play and sing together. The minimalist color approach in the set and the costumes allows the barriers to be dropped almost entirely in favor of a unified spirit.
Oh, And there's finally two dolls representing North America, a cowboy and a Native American chief.
Hashtag racist, hashtag not every American wears a cowboy hat, hashtag profiling.
And finally, we enter one last nook, where several signs bid you a fond farewell in a variety of languages. In 2015, in an effort to further incorporate My Magic Plus and Magic Bands, Disney installed 2 LED screens that can personally address you. It's a nice touch that certainly adds an element of personable attention. Then, at last, you return to the dock and try as hard as you can to get the song out of your head for the rest of the day.
So, is this truly the happiest cruise that ever sailed, or is there more than just the music to fear? And go!
I actually really like It's a Small World, believe it or not.
Same here.
I don't know if it's just the inner child in me. I mean, I've been writing it ever since I was a little kid. So, I don't know, perhaps I've grown a certain charming, fond nostalgia for it.
It's kind of weird nowadays. It kind of seems like the pinnacle of saccharine, sugar-coated Disney-ness, and you see some people just snub it or just despise it entirely. Cough, cough, some jerk with a camera, cough, cough.
So there's this sort of culture war that's kind of gone on ever since, I think, the mid-90s?
At least.
And I would say it's along the same lines as Barney the Dinosaur ended up. Mm-hmm. It's, I mean, not nearly as maligned, but, you know, ask who you will, some people do malign this attraction a lot just for, you know, its simplistic nature, the song. But I've got to say, the song is timeless. Mm-hmm. If it has endeared as long as it has, you know, going on 60 years almost.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good, that's an endearing song. Not a lot of songs are still carrying that kind of gravitas, that legacy.
Although, honestly, I think part of the reason why why it's not as maligned as it used to be is that it is as old as it is. When something has been around for 50 to 60 years, you know, it gains an air of respectability to it. We can accept it for being what it is, because it's been around for so long.
Honestly, I think it's one of the few ways that you can really just cross the generational gap. Mm-hmm. It's such a simple and timeless message. It will continue to endear for as long as there's optimism in the world.
And that's something we kind of desperately need, no matter what era, especially in these times that try men's souls.
Indeed, indeed. Let's talk next about the art style. The art style is gorgeous.
It really is.
I mean, Mary Blair just brought such a certain charm to it, but you also have to appreciate the Imagineers who brought these dolls to life. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think it's one of the largest gatherings of audio animatronics in the entire park.
They may not do like a whole lot of articulate movements, a lot of their mouths may not move, but yeah, that amount of animatronics is kind of insane, especially for something back in the 1960s. And Mary Blair, she was a concept artist at the Disney studio for the longest time. So she was the one who developed a lot of styles for movies like Three Caballeros, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan. So that's kind of why her design sense is so simple. But it works to a great effect here because it's all about simplicity. The color scheme, the designs, the music, and just the fact that it's children. It's all about simplicity. And that really works to its advantage.
It does. It really does. I mean, it continues, you know, it appeals to you as a child because look at the colors, look at the shapes. It's so pretty. And then you grow up to appreciate just how darn artistic it is. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, eventually you're showing your children It's a Small World for the very first time. In a sense, it's almost like kind of the Disneyland effect.
Yeah.
Where you appreciate this thing when you're a child so that you can bring your child to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All of it, you know, embodied in one simple ride. Now, a little bit about the ride itself. I mean, just the message, the purity, its reputation, whether you love it or whether you hate it. I think it's just going to continue to ascend to that artistic level and be appreciated, you know, not just by, you know, people like me who are nostalgic about it, but it's going to be appreciated by generations and generations to come. It'll continue to ascend to that level. What's the word I'm trying to think of? Seraphic.
Yeah.
It's positively seraphic. It stands all by itself and, you know, often imitated but never duplicated.
Yeah. My personal feelings, I really do enjoy this ride. If I think we both can agree that if someone said, "Hey guys, want to come ride Small World?" I don't think any of us would put up much of a protest.
I certainly would not.
It's a good ride, and there's really rarely an occasion where I would say no. However, I think for me, my only major criticism is the fact that, as much as I was just praising the simplicity a few moments ago, I think in some places it's a little too simple. Let me clarify. We're starting to realize nowadays that the complex social politics that we're seeing in nowadays, especially here in the United States, since November, are complex as heck. And I mean, way back when, racism and things like that were very overt. Nowadays, it's much more subversive, and I think that's part of the reason why I don't want to say a problem with it, but it makes me a little uncomfortable because I'm looking at it. And now we know that, racism and nationalism, these aren't simple issues of just solving by saying, can't we all just get along? Let's be friends. It's more than that. So I think if the ride fails on any level, it's the fact that it doesn't really address these issues as they should. But then again, you could also argue that Disney World is not a place for a ride about social politics. But then we said the same thing about animated movies, and then we get movies like Zootopia, which handle it spectacularly well. So really, be your own judge on that one, because I honestly don't know. I mean, I would like to see something that handles this subject a little better with a more mature mindset to it that can tackle this in a more credible light. But on the other hand, it's also a 50-year-old ride that's supposed to be from the point of view of cherubic children. So there it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it stands by itself, and it stands the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my humble opinion, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 4.5 out of 5. Not to say that the ride isn't perfect in some sort of way, but yeah, I guess it is a little simple, and it is a kid's ride. But it still works. It really does.
I really don't have any complaints overall. I just don't think of reasons why I would want to binge it, over and over. So I really do love it, and I do enjoy it, especially as someone who loves geography as much as I do. So ultimately, I give it a 3 out of 5.
All right, so that's a 4.5 out of 5 from SurferClock and a 3 out of 5 from TAP-G. The ride is obviously great for all ages, especially kids. Folks in wheelchairs are welcome, and those in scooters must be able to transfer at least into wheelchairs before boarding. Audio description and handheld captioning are available, and as with all Disney rides, those under the age of 7 must be with someone at least 14 years of age or older.
Honestly, you'd have to be pretty jaded and cynical to not enjoy It's a Small World. There's lots of fantastic tiny details throughout the ride that more than make up for the saccharine parts.
If you have a teenager who just doesn't want to ride, there's no need to force it. Although TAP-G and I can appreciate it on a more profound level, not everybody will.
And remember, there are far worse songs to get stuck in one's head. Remember Rebecca Black's Friday, anyone? Or the DuckTales theme song?
Remember, I'm SurferClock.
And I'm the king of earworms.
And in the spirit of today's episode, we want to say, domo arigato.
Cien.
Obrigado.
Asante sana.
Dankeschön.
Shkra.
Danyavada.
Eucharistume.
Grazie.
Kamsaha benida.
Spasibo.
Tak.
Muchas gracias.
Merci beaucoup.
And thank you, one and all, for listening to What's the Attraction?
Where our work is your vacation. 'Cause it's a small world after all.